Hi everyone, you read the thumbnail, you read the title, let's get into it. God's Country by Chatpile released July 29th, 2022 to massive critical and commercial acclaim. Almost every music review site gave it an 8 plus. Pitchfork listed it as its best new music, and Fantano gave it, I think, a high 8 if not a 9. So, you know it's good. But what made it good? Well, on top of the four band members being Raygun Bush on vocals, Luther Manhole on guitar, Stin on bass, and Captain Moran on drums, the elements of sludge metal and noise rock the four managed to mash together for some of the most unholy concoctions I've ever had the pleasure of describing as music is what we're here for. That's what this is about. If you thought it was going to somehow not be about that, what are you doing here? Do you even know who I am? Anyways, trigger warning for murder, assault, armed robbery, drug use, hallucinations, assault of a different kind of variety, ritualistic murder. I mean, does that count as murder? I don't know, but you know what I mean. It's grimy, it's icky, it's all the fucking nasty shit. Why is the album about such gruesome and unholy topics? It's because the band's previous works were also about gruesome and unholy topics, given the fact that they're both named This Dungeon Earth and Remove Your Skin Please. It makes sense. But not only that, the EPs and the songs on them dive into ideas of these murderous urges, society breaking people down to the point of which they commit them, and, the general lack of good things that happen in this country. Speaking of which, we have the album cover, the Oklahoma County Detention Center, where in the year 2022, 11 people died alone. Yeah, so imagine how many people have died there over the years. Stin went on to describe the album cover and, by extension, the institutions it represents as that punitive authoritarian hand that is always right over you at any time. Now, if I had to explain that statement, we'd be here all day. But to give you the short answer, it means that this album is about the grinding, grueling, and terrifying thought of existing in America ever. Literally ever. It's gonna be a fun one. Anyways, on to the music, starting with the opening track, Slaughterhouse, with industrial drummings, a screeching guitar, and that utterly just toned down fucking earth moving bass line, allowing for Raygun screams of hammer and grease in what he describes as his Tom York impression, all the more terrifying, and this is only the first 10 seconds of the track. Now, before we get past the 10-second mark of the song, I do have to tell you what it's about, because it kind of doesn't make sense without it, but also the story about the song is just too insane not to tell you, so that's what I'm going to do. My script's over here, so I'm going to be looking like this. Thanks. Like many of the band's songs, this is based on a real occurrence, specifically an incident that took place on September 25th, 2014, when one Alton Nolan returned to his place of work, Vaughn Foods, and then beheaded one Colleen Hufford, stabbing another coworker and then being shot by a third. In the following case, he pleaded both insanity and retardation, which he lost because, he beheaded someone and was then sentenced to lethal injection. Nolan was notably a fan of ISIS and Osama bin Laden, posting on Facebook about 9/11. He had actually gone to a mosque, but everyone thought he was a fucking weirdo because he kind of probably was. So that's what this song is about. Yeah, I include this not just to, again, glorify the incident that transpired, but to showcase what the band is trying to showcase, because lines like, blood has to be shed in order to set things right, and all the blood and the fucking sound, man, look at their eyes, everyone's head rings here, doesn't really hit as hard, and you don't know that he's literally talking about looking into someone's eyes as you chop their head off. Now, do you need the context? No, obviously. It's kind of horrifying sounding on its own, but it does add a level of nuance that is lost without it. This then goes on with God damn it, and the screaming, more screaming than you'd think. Everyone's head rings here. You never forget their eyes. Now, look, if I had to try to summarize this song, it's doom-pilled. It is the most black-pilled thing there is. There's nothing hopeful about this song, and that is the trend for the rest of the album. It is a nihilistic, pessimistic, utterly savage look at the state of affairs in this country, and that's the only way you really can look at them either, because let's face it, look at the presidential race. I'm just saying, we all know how bad it looks, and that's on both sides. So while I didn't focus heavily on the instrumentation for Slaughterhouse, Why is a perfectly industrial track with some of the deepest tones and lowest depths possible to reach, both in its instrumentation and its lyrics, because this is actually one of the most realistically based tracks on the album, I'd say. The fact that one of the opening lines on this song is "Why do people have to live outside?" paints a perfect picture as to what Raygun wants to know, but also the answer in the same question, because, well, let's face it, everyone knows why people have to live outside. We know why homelessness is a thing in this country. It's not because we don't have the space for people. It's not because they're lazy or just unfit for society. Most of these people, especially in places like San Francisco, the city I am from, they're typically college educated people who had jobs, had lives before they lost their homes, and then were just left to do whatever they could to survive. And that's because we let people own other people's housing. Isn't that weird? Isn't it weird how you can own where someone lives and then kick them out of there if they don't give you enough money for it? Isn't that fucking crazy that you can't just have housing guaranteed? Doesn't that feel like a human right? Yeah, that's what this song is about. That's the point of this song. It's not about the grueling reality of living outside, though it does touch on that to an extensive, just fucking grotesque level. Let us read from the amazing dialogue that this question is. Have you ever had ringworm, scabies? Have you ever had to live outside? No, you haven't, because you probably wouldn't survive. As Raygun calls it, it is a fucking tragedy. Next, we have what is arguably one of the more unique tracks on the album, Pamela, which brings us back to a more nostalgic era of chat pile with songs like Rat Boy and Garbage Man, where instead of it being a horrific, realistic experience, it's more of a fan fiction. It's about Friday the 13th. If you didn't already know that, I genuinely don't know how you've made it this far. Not only does this track harken back to the band's older material in its narrative and character, I would say, but also its sound with shimmering guitars and smooth bass rather than the insanely industrial and overwhelmingly dark nature of the previous two tracks. I got lazy and I don't want to keep looking this way, so instead I'm going to raise the script like so and read from it. I apologize in advance. But the opening lines of "Close my eyes and you're still with me, in the trees, feel the locust buzzing, but I can never keep my eyes closed long enough" set the scene perfectly, allowing the ambiance of the narrative to build. Pairing with the chorus, "So I stare at the lake, buying my time, waiting to die," allows for the distorted instrumental wall to build and swell just so perfectly. It pairs so well with the narrative and how distraught Raygun sounds. This is, oh god, what did he say? Brad Taste in Music is one of my favorite YouTubers, and he described Raygun's performance here as a drunk man rambling, and I think that's both the highest compliment and the funniest critique I've ever heard. But that is how he sounds on this track. He sounds like he's genuinely standing at the edge of a lake, just losing his mind. This paired with the line, "Wonder if all this pain I carry is strong enough to lift your body from the water and make you be alive again. I would gladly trade my life for yours if only the water could bargain, if only they'd had been watching." Now, this track, obviously, given its context of being Friday the 13th fan fiction for the most part, it's a little funny. But it's also really sad because, again, he is giving one of the most harrowing performances on this album. This and the final track, in my opinion, are his best, and it's because of how genuine the distraught nature of it is. This, paired with the following, "I want you to know right now that I loved you. When you left, it almost killed your mother, but something inside me propels me forward, a kind of rage you never get used to." That line right there, when he talks about the mother obviously being the mom from Friday the 13th, makes it really interesting because, again, mostly fan fiction, there's no dad. Jason Voorhees does not have a dad, as far as I know. I don't really keep up with Friday the 13th canon for the most part, but again, that's not something that ever gets talked about. So having it be such a direct line and be such a, again, part of the song truly makes it more both narratively cohesive and also compelling to listen to because it's adding things that you don't even expect to think about. This all leads to what is, in my opinion, the best build on the album. Maybe not the best, but one of the best, with Raygun's increasingly desperate lyrics of, "Your voice, of course, someday I'll reach you, in my dreams I can reach you," which, again, building on the mythos of the franchise, while also, again, just making new shit up as he goes, and just sounding so desperate, so like lost in it. It really feels like he hits his characters with a certain stride that you just don't expect to hear. Leading into the final verse where the instrumental hits its peak of slamming guitars, wall shaking bass, and clashing drums, as Raygun then screams, "Cutting the meat, forest of meat, spill their blood, spilling their blood, and resurrect my son," being the shouted line. It's a really good build, especially because, again, Raygun on this entire album sounds like he's losing his fucking mind. Like, I've never heard someone sound so frantic, and then, I don't know if you've seen this man on Instagram or any video of him, he's such a chill guy. You would never think he could even sound like this without hearing it first. And when he says, "Resurrect my son," when he shouts that line, it's such a primal cry. Like, it feels like it's coming from a depth that I don't even know if you should be able to reach. And it's really, really cool that he can do that for a song, of all things. Like, it's not even acting. He's not even, like, this isn't a performance you're watching him do. You're just hearing him do it. And it still works. That being said, Thumb Live, shit, fucks. I got this from their concert. Amazing time. This also then leads into the die down of the track, where it just repeats the chorus of "Waiting to Die," but I feel like my one gripe with this song, I feel like it didn't need the final part after "Resurrect My Son." It could have just faded with an instrumental, but I do appreciate that they repeat the chorus, because I feel like it makes, again, headcanon sense for the franchise narrative and mythos. Wicked Puppet Dance spends no time fucking around and instead clocks you over the head with disorienting guitar, a deep bass, and somewhat muted, almost distant sounding drums. With Raygun going on a rant about how his skin is all fucked up, but he cooks a nice batch. Everywhere on the rolls, new roach babies hatch. She says vein stuff freaks her out, so I keep quiet. Everyone says they can't handle vein stuff till they try it. It's just such a visceral showcasing of what a, let's face it, a meth house looks like. It's kind of crazy that they even, I don't know, It's crazy how he got in the studio and just went, this is what I'm saying today. And again, the instrumental is so perfect. It's so anxiety inducing. It feels like you're the guy accompanying him to the meth house, and you're just like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? Don't worry about the fact that the camera moves slightly, because we have the chorus, which is actually one of my favorites on the album, despite being literally the most incoherent and just ununderstandable. It makes no sense because it's simply God's eyes, taste, lips, red, foe, death, come. Which, to be fair, is very simple and very memorable. But also, I can only assume that's what the protagonist of the song is meant to feel as he shoots up, because let's face it, what else would this be representing? But it also, like, what's like, I know there's some subtext there, you know what I mean? Like, I know it means something. I just couldn't tell you what it means, which makes me feel like I'm doing a bad job at this, but also like that string of words is just, I don't know, it's so ambiguous. There's no like, you I don't try to get something from it if you want. I don't know if you can. The first chorus then leads into the short second verse of, tried to fuck me, called me a liar, so I shot him in the head, set the house on fire, which, you know, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like the climax this song was going to hit. The chorus then repeats, and then we get what is arguably my favorite breakdown on the album, where the instrumental slows and it's just the crashing guitar, the bass line just crazy, the drums are just metallic as fuck, and then you just have Raygun grunting. He's not even singing, he's just grunting and growling and screaming, and it's one of the best parts of the song, and it hits right at the 2 minute mark, and this is like a 4 minute song, right? So you get that, and then you get like a minute long outro. Maybe it's not a minute, maybe it's like 30 seconds. Do I have it on here? No, no. It just ends, and then you just get the sound of like a chain dragging, and it's really nerve wracking. Like, if you want to feel nerve wracked by the end of a song, this feels like the guy burned the house down and now he's like stealing this guy's meth supplies. And it just hits right given the context of the track and the sound of it. Like, it feels like the correct outro, even though it doesn't really connect to the song it's on, but it might to the next one. If Why was about the horrors of American capitalism, then Anywhere is about the horrors of American policy making, given the fact that, let's see, what's the first line? Oh, yeah. At first your hand was in mine, there smiling and walking, then the world split open, and I think there was brain on my shoe. Yeah, the song's just about a shooting. To be fair, it might be more specific. It could be a school shooting because, you know, we love those here. Um, but I don't know for sure. And to be fair, does it make a difference? Like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like just making the context of the track a shooting happening in general, naming the track Anywhere. The point is not that it is about like a specific case, but rather the fact that it can happen. Again, it's much like Why in its content of, why can this happen? Why would anyone want this? Why would you want to live somewhere where this can just be the state of shit? Because it's fucking insane. Instrumentally, it's much more like Pamela, where it takes a much more post punk approach to it. It has very similar swells, however, as it allows for the same wall of the instruments to hit before dying down whenever Bush picks up the, the verse or whatever. You know how a song works. I'm not gonna lie, that was all I had to say about Anywhere. Guns are bad, no one should own them. That's kind of common sense. The next track, Tropical Beaches Inc., is about capitalism once again, but instead of being about the horrors of letting people live on the streets because, that's fucking insane, this is instead about the opposite end of the spectrum. A Patrick Bateman-esque character painted in just the fucking worst of lights. But the track. before we get in. The shimmering guitars, the somewhat distant yet kind of, I don't even know what the word to use is. Like, the drums are there, but they're so, like, I don't know, the way they're mixed in with the bass makes it such a, like, it's almost distracting trying to figure out the drum line at times, especially when like the big build happens, but it's still really good because you could hear just how much shit's going on, if that makes sense. You know what I mean. But let's talk about the lyrics, because this is some bullshit. This is some crazy shit. Mostly the chorus. I think this is my favorite chorus. I know I said I like Wicked Puppet Dance, but this is my favorite. This is why I have a shirt for it. Deeper cuts, bloody sheets, making money, making money. Deeper cuts, bloody sheets, making money. Man on TV, haunts you, haunts me. Now, what does that make? It's about commercials. That's what that was. Commercials. It makes more sense when you get to the other lines of unknown concepts and new strategies, given the fact that that could either be a murder scene or a quarterly meeting. But this one's tongue-in-cheek, you know what I mean? Like, on the one hand, this guy's fucking insane, because, let's face it, every character portrayed by this band is fucking insane, but this guy in particular has a hint of irony to him. Like, again, Patrick Bateman, like, that guy? Really? Why? He's not that threatening, and that's the point. That's the point. Corporate America doesn't feel threatening until it is, until it's literally kicking you in the nuts and then making you pay it for it. That's why this song is so cool. Also, the final part of the chorus, or not the final part of the chorus, the final chorus where he just screams, haunt you, haunt me, haunt you. And the instrumental is insane there. It's such a wall of noise that just hits the right spot. The riff is so fucking killer. I love it so much. I know they don't like... Chat Pal's a more of a bass than guitar band a lot of the times, but this is one of the few times where they're both on like equal footing, and hearing it truly is something to behold. If Slaughterhouse was meant to be a disturbing intro, then The Mask is meant to be the icing on the murder cake, so to speak. The opening line is quite literally, open the fucking register before I kill everyone in here, and, that's kind of the vibe the rest of the track gives. The lower and more distorted instrumental, again, reminiscent of Slaughterhouse, allows for the just insane bullshit this song is about to really shine through in the most insane of ways, and oh my god, look what just happened. That was not on purpose. But what's this track about? Let's find out. Oh yeah, it's based on another real event, like Slaughterhouse. This time, the 1974 mass murder of 6 Sirloin Stockade employees, murdered by one Roger Dale Stafford during an armed robbery. That first line's starting to sound about right. This was not only an incident either, isolated incident as in, he was implicated by his then wife of murdering 34 people in 7 states. Yeah, that's the song. Every track on this album is slightly horrifying, and I don't know why I listen to it so much. Anyways, back to Ray Gunn cosplaying a convicted and executed murderer. He was, of course, put to... It might have been, it wasn't the chair. He was lethal injection too. We really like doing that to people. The American justice system is really fond of putting needles in people that kill you, which is really funny given who some of our presidents have been. Anyways, the lines of, and anyway, I can hit a lot harder if you want to find out, won't matter to me none. Do you want to see? Line up the animals is just such a well portrayed protagonist. I keep calling them protagonists. They're all antagonists. I don't know if you caught that. It's kind of just me saying, like, look, the character the song is portraying. You know what I mean. I don't know why I'm explaining that to you. But anyways, the guttural of Sirloin Stockade is burned into my memory being one of the most horrifically sounding things. Like, again, Raygun's just a good actor. He's really good at getting his voice to that just oomph. Like, it might not be the lowest, but it definitely has some of the most reach, in my opinion, if that makes sense. The following, open the safe in the back before more people die. It didn't have to be this way, and honestly, if you listen to me and follow instructions, this will all be over soon. And how about this? You won't even hear it. Is just as chilling as the instrumental drops into this low frenzy before the chorus. It's the way the instrumental allows Raygun to find such pockets, because the way the band makes their music is that they record the instrumental first. They write it, they record it, and then instrumental, and then Raygun comes in and sings. And that's how they work. And it makes a lot of sense when you listen to the music because, well, the vocals are very well placed, and it's because, they spend a lot of time, I assume, placing them after the fact. Also, the final verse of it's all broken faces in this nightmare world and jamming fingers, but oh, all the animals we've worked through, all the animals, it kind of tells you that this is in fact not about animals, but again, given the character on portrayal here, it does make sense as to why that would maybe be the way he talks about people. Because, he murdered so many of them. For these next two tracks, I think I'm going to read verbatim from the script because they're fucking chonky and I do not want to mess them up. Anyways, I Don't Care If I Burn is one of those interludes that both perfectly sets up the upcoming track and still manages to be haunting all on its own. Raygun's lone speech paired with a single bass drum, what sounds like a tape being pulled and ripped, and maybe gasoline being doused is just a terrifying conservation combination. Especially with lines like, I'll never let them forget your face, 'cause you may not see me now, but motherfucker, I see you. So I'm coming now, coming round back while everyone was asleep. Terrifying, some would say. His single scream before saying, just looking for some peace, not only sets up the final track perfectly, but keeps this track just as memorable as the rest. Because, yeah, that single scream is really just like, oh, like it, and it hits right at a weird point in the track. You don't know what's going on, really. Like, he says all this weird, like, ambiguous shit, and then he just screams. And then he just goes back to looking for some peace, and you're like, okay, that's terrifying. Don't ever do that again. And it works. It works really well. All right, you ready? I gotta like mentally prepare. One reading. It's okay. So it's from here. It's from here down, and then to here. So it is a full page for one song. You ready? I don't know if I'm ready. Grimace _ smoking _ weed.jpg is both a hilarious and horrifying track, depending on how you read it. What is apparent either way, however, is the insane instrumental, a wall of sludgy noise as the drums, bass, and guitar all line up perfectly. While many have attested this song to being a depiction of a mental break or lapse, the sources Raygun cites as inspiration actually completely avoid such topics, at least to the extent that what he cites does not take those as the, I guess, immediate conversational topic. Instead, he cites the movie In a Glass Cage and Mysterious Skin, both depicting assaults below the belt against children, which, yeah, no, it already makes this song feel 10 times grosser to listen to, and inevitably the effects they have on their victims later in life. This makes the plot of the song much darker, as it seems to follow a similar plot arc as a character from Mysterious Skins. This character goes on to develop a level of paranoia and begins to believe that they were instead abducted by aliens rather than what had actually happened, which was bad. Yeah, so again, this song, given what Raygun personally cites as his kind of narrative inspiration for the track, it does paint a not good picture for our protagonist here. We haven't even gotten to the track yet, and it's already looking really bad. Still with me? Okay, let's keep going. Anyway, the song. The opening lines of Normal Night should be just trying to live a normal life. 30 seconds into a 9-minute track means we're in for a doozy, only for the sense of normalcy to be ripped away by the following. It was the image that brought me back, but listen, I don't want your presence. And whose presence is it? None other than Purple Man smoking weed in my bedroom. My bedroom? Fucking terrifying. Get that shit out of here. And why does this Purple Man matter so much? Well, perhaps it's the you hurt me in a past life, you were so strange once, at least stranger than you are now. And that part, that line always kills me. At least stranger than you are now. Because that means he's still strange. And I don't like that. Like, on a personal level, it's always hit a nerve that I'm like, oh, why is he still strange then? Like, if you... Yeah, you see, this is why I have a hard time with this song, because, like, as soon as I looked up those two movies and learned what they were about, and then I re-listened to the song, I went, And anyways, we're continuing. We're so close to done. Now, at first, I wasn't sure where the in a glass cage influence came from, but the following, okay, it's true, I want to wear your flesh, when I look through my eyes, I want to be you, I'm a monster too, you then realize, oh, I do know what this song is about. Promptly answering that question. The lines, I think back fondly to the time, I think back to the time fondly, that one time I felt sick, but I zenned out, and it boiled over in no time. I felt good in no time. I fell asleep into forgotten pleasures. There was no time. Adds context to the unclear story, perhaps drugs or a metaphor for the event itself. And yet, see, this is the thing with this song, because it explains fucking nothing to you. At no point does the song sit down and go, here, dumbass, this is what we're about. And I like that, but it also makes it hard to talk about, because again, when that's the shit that he cited, like verbatim, like those were the movies that he named out of his face when he talked about the album. To be fair, he said Grimace, the character, is innocent. But that doesn't really make it better, does it? Does it really? Does this purple fucker being safe really make you feel better? Not really. It just means that you gotta look at him weirder now. You're like, was someone wearing a Grimace costume? That's scary. I don't want to think of that either. Again, not good things. Continuing. The chorus then repeats before the protagonist's admission of, I'm twisted and frail, broken up, I'm Purple Man too, which again fits with the inspiration drawn from the films of certain characters then taking on depraved aspects of themselves, whether it be through a multitude of varieties. I'm not explaining these movies to you. I did read the plots, but like, I mean, I don't know. Go watch them. Go read the wiki pages on them. Like, you can find this information on your own. I'm not giving you a movie review at the same time. This then leads to the climactic moment of the song, which, to be fair, happens quite early in it. We're not even at the, I think, 6-minute mark at this point. I'm trying to kill myself. If you don't mind, that's why I locked the door. I just need some privacy. If you don't mind, I'm gonna open the window now and jump out face first. I know we're not that high, but if I do it right, I can break my neck. I don't want to be alive. And that verse, I feel like that's the point of the song. Not whatever the weird shit that happened, not the trauma of it, but the everlasting effect of it. Then, like, what do you do afterwards? I feel like that's what the song's about. And, you know, yeah, that's fucking bad. That's really bad. That's, like, terrible. That's, like, the worst spot to be in. And that's what a lot of this album is about. A lot of this album is about being in the most desolate of fucked places. Because that's what happens in this country to a lot of people. to a great majority of people, if I would say. A lot of people end up in those situations at least once in their life where they're like, damn, this fucking sucks. And like, I like that this track still manages to do that while also being not only inspired by such fucking insane things, but also then being placed in such a realistic setting as your bedroom, for example. Anyways, where was I? Now, while this entire song being based on the fact that this character saw a picture of Grimace smoking weed and went into a full-fledged schizophrenic break is goofy, the way it is depicted is rather genuine. Too genuine for me to really think it's funny. Because, like, I do think it is hilarious to base this song off Grimace smoking weed. Like, the premise of the song is not necessarily the part that I think is, incapable of being seen as a joke. It's more of the way in which the song then depicts the reaction to such a thing and what that reaction may be coming from. You know what I mean? That's weird. That's like knots your stomach, kind of like, oh, fuck me. The remaining 5 minutes turn into a drone section as Raygun shouts into the void with occasional instrumental hits, allowing the scene to be painted in full with sections like, I had a question here, but not anymore. I tried to at least. I just stare at the wall. How long? Face forward, eyes open, devoid, alright, devoid, demon, which I don't even know. And I don't want to be alive anymore. Do you? Stupid, but you already knew that. You weren't supposed to see this, but here it is. No more, face first. I don't want it, but here it is. The track ends with a final swell of instrumental as Raygun shouts the name Grimace before shrieks of terror as he assumedly hits the ground. This track is terrifying. Again, because of what it might be, directly pulling from, but also just the way it's depicted. That ending portion of the song, the latter half, is just him shouting. Like, he's just shouting shit, and it genuinely feels like he doesn't even know what he's shouting at. And that's scary, And again, to be fair, something I haven't mentioned up until this point, these guys are massive stoners. All this, they are baked as fuck while doing it. And I do give them a lot of credit for that, because that is a really fun way of making music. But also, I don't know. I don't know how seriously they take their own music. And it makes it hard to then dissect some of it, because, again, some of it, most of it, is based off of horrific and just not fun stuff. Things you don't want to see. So you then have to examine and you go, am I taking this too personally, or are they not taking it personally enough? And I like to think it's somewhere in the middle where I really feel a lot of it, given how much I actually know where it's coming from. But then how much do they feel that? And like, should it affect me if it doesn't affect, you know what I mean? Like, who's drawing on what here is kind of the question. But anyways, it's a really good song. I still really like it. Like, obviously, I like this album a lot. It's like a 10 in my opinion. It's just, I got a lot of feelings about it. And with that, we are at the end of the review of this oddly introspective, personal, and yet horrifying look at America. This entire album, again, as I said, is just about how shitty this country is and all of the bad shit that happens in it. And it touches on literally both ends of the spectrum. Like, it goes from like the objective horror of murder to like the grueling struggles of day-to-day life that some people endure. And I just really like that it does it in such a cohesive way where those two ends of the spectrum never feel this far apart. They always feel so intimately intertwined, and I really like the way that the album does so, while also sounding insane. Like, I know I don't talk about the instrumentation enough on this album, or at least in this review, but it's really good. Like, I think the reason I can't talk about it that much is because I am not the most well-versed in bass, but the bass playing on this album is a lot of it, and like, he's got some killer fucking lines and riffs in here. Like, you just gotta go listen to it to really know it. But yeah, I really like this album. It's a 10, like I already said. And yeah, that's been the review, or deep dive, whatever you want to call it. I had to burp twice in a row. I'm so sorry. Anyways, do the the buttons, the the like, the subscribe. Probably another video next week. I don't know exactly what it'll be on, but I have a couple ideas, so we'll see from there. And yeah, thanks for watching.